for a throwback because this weekend you can revisit the 80s, I still live there, 90s, and Totally Rad Vintage Fest. It is going to be awesome. Joining us today, Sarah Emerson, to let us know about all the fun we're going to have. Thanks so much, Sarah.
Thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here.
So what is Totally Rad Vintage Fest?
Oh, yeah. Totally Rad is as the name sounds. It's a totally rad traveling vintage event that focuses on the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s eras. We're coming to the OKC Fairgrounds August 10th. We'll be inside the air-conditioned, climate-controlled pavilion. We'll have a great collection of vintage vendors from across the country. Lots of men's and women's vintage clothes, toys, memorabilia from those awesome eras for sale. And then we also have immersive throwback photo ops, a free play vintage arcade setup to play all day, and all kinds of fun things to remind you of the best decades ever.
I 100% agree. So you gave us a good overview. Let's dive a little deeper into this because I know people are excited, but what can they really find inside this thing once they get in there? Some of the clothing that they may want, some of the music, some of the photo ops. Dive into that a little bit more if you would.
Oh, yeah. Well, the music is always jamming. You know, the music from the 80s and 90s is always the best. So that's always rocking all day. But we have a really awesome eclectic collection of vendors from across the country that bring together the best items from these decades. You'll find video games, maybe an N64, some of those games you used to play that you want to bring back. Lots of those bright neon colored clothes from the 80s, as well as those grungy, maybe T-shirts and flannels from the 90s that we all know and love. And what I really love about this era of clothing and this era in general is it's the last decade before the internet really took over. So you see really high quality clothes that are also really nostalgic feeling.
I love it. Neon never should have left. So thank you for bringing it back. Now, what made you come up with the 80s, 90s, and the Y2K theme?
I am a 90s baby, personally. I've always loved the 80s. I've always loved the 90s. Me and my husband and our business partner, Vinny, we're all 90s babies, and we just never want to leave the decade. So we decided to start the show here in Minneapolis, locally, where we're from. And the last year, we started touring it. This year will be our first time in OKC, and we're really stoked to bring back these decades to y'all.
We are so glad you're bringing it to OKC. Now, how many towns nationwide do you guys do this for?
Oh boy, last year was our first tour and we did 11 cities. And we're looking ahead to our 24-25 tour, and we're looking like we're going to be in the 20 to 30 range. So we're super stoked about that.
I am so glad you're doing this. I'm definitely going to be there. We're going old school, everybody. Thank you so much. Again, make sure you check out Totally Rad Vintage Fest this Saturday, actually August 10th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. You got to be there for the whole 7 hours because it's going to be a blast. For more information, go to totallyradvf.com or at totallyradvf on all the socials.